In case you missed it, here's Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.
October 2nd today. If you haven't done that yet, make sure if you've got calendars around, turn those up.
I just flipped mine over.
The new CK calendars are now out. Those community calendars that you get. Or you don't get it because...
I don't get the Chatham Voice because I don't live in Chatham.
You don't get that in the country, but they are out, those new calendars.
Can you get me one?
In October. Well, I only got one, so unless I ripped it in half.
Oh, come on.
Half the year I get half. Things to look forward to in the month, though. There's lots of sports action happening.
Yes, the Major League Baseball playoffs kick off tomorrow with the wild card games. So if you're wondering about that, the Blue Jays will be taking on the Twins in Minnesota. Game 1 is tomorrow at 4:38 p.m. They released the times.
Very exact.
I don't know why. So the Rays and Rangers, that's the other AL wildcard series. They start at 3:08 p.m. And then you got the Diamondbacks and the Brewers, and the Marlins and the Phillies. They play afterwards.
You've also got the World Series scheduled to begin October 27th. NHL season begins October 10th. NBA season starts on the 24th.
Now, when it comes to movies, a number of new ones are out, including The Exorcist Believer. That hits theaters coming up this Friday. The Jamie Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones legal drama, The Burial, is also out this weekend. Can't forget Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour is the like sort of tour film. That's coming out on Friday the 13th. And the Martin Scorsese film Killers of the Flower Moon, that's coming out October 20th.
That one looks really good. Seen some great reviews on that one so far. On TV, new seasons of The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, and also Family Guy are all back on Fox. Also, season 2 of Loki, it's Disney Plus this week. Also, some of the other ones include a Frasier reboot hitting Paramount Plus October 12th. They may be holding off on some of these, right? Because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike.
It depends. They might have only gotten about half of them done.
If that.
Do you put them out and then hope that things have started up again, or do you wait? Also, there's going to be a solar eclipse Saturday, October 14th.
So I was looking at the map. We'll get, I think it's a third of that solar eclipse. So definitely don't be looking at the sun. Unless you've got those special glasses. And finally, the holidays, of course, Halloween on the 31st, but there's also an extra spooky Friday the 13th this month, too.
And when it comes to these special days this month, International Beer and Pizza Day, that's October 9th.
Didn't we just have a beer day?
No, we had Coffee Day.
Oh, I thought we had another type of beer day, too.
Was it National Coffee Day or National Drink Beer Day?
International Beer Day. Mm-hmm. International Drink a Beer Day.
National Cat Day is the 29th, and National Texture X Day is October 30th, though that seems like a bad idea.
That feels like it should be on the 31st.
Yum. Science.
It's not rocket science. Check it out. I blinded us with science.
I think a lot of people know this, but not everyone knows that Brian May from the rock band Queen is an actual astrophysicist.
And he doesn't just, have a PhD. He actually applies it. He assisted NASA in a recent mission to collect samples from an asteroid that is expected to hit Earth in the future.
This box, when it is opened, of material from the surface of Bennu can tell us untold secrets of the origins of the universe, the origins of our planet, and the origins of life itself. What an incredibly exciting day.
So Brian says you can read the full story of the mission in a new book that he's going to be putting out, which includes a 3D viewer, by the way, designed by him.
Of course he did.
So an amazing musician and also one really smart guy.
Mm-hmm. Hey, last year in Britain, hip fractures were up 10% from pre-pandemic levels. So doctors there suspect that increase could be indicative of the effects lockdown might have had on the older population, because they say a lot of people weren't moving as much as they normally would. And so that deconditioning led to an increased risk of falling and then also having more sort of brittle bones, being prone to breaks.
Well, I mean, we were locked down. So many things were closed. They didn't really want you 6 feet apart. So how many people just were like, no, I'm staying in my house?
And a lot of seniors were like, because they have a lot of maybe underlying health conditions, were playing it safe, not going to the store at all, having things dropped off. So they weren't going out as much as they normally would.
It really shows you the importance of trying to get back at it again. It's hard, though, if you've been sedentary for a while. Extended screen time is unavoidable, of course, with many of our jobs. I mean, I'm surrounded right now with multiple screens, as are, you are too. So for many people, you spend most of your day staring at a screen of some kind, even if you're not working. And that can really take a toll on our eyes. If you're looking for a new way to give your tired eyes a rest, a new research has this recommendation. It only takes 20 seconds. It's called the 20-20-20 rule. So the strategy is simple. Just look away from your screen for 20 seconds every 20 minutes and be sure to look at least 20 feet away.
Okay.
So studies authors say this approach can really help to ease some of the eye symptoms associated with prolonged computer use, which so many of us go through in most jobs now.
So this is different than that 20-20-20 breakdown that I had heard of, which was work for 20 minutes, go for a 20-minute walk, and then disappear into the forest for 20 years. No?
Drink for 20 minutes.
Wrong rule.
Wake up and get back to work again.
And finally, a German engineer has custom built a toy minigun, which can fire 684 Nerf darts in 1 minute.
This is a standard blaster. This is my blaster. I built my second minigun. It took me the last couple of months building this and especially improving it. I really like it a lot, and it's nice to see that other people enjoy it too. I must say, firing it is even more fun.
So in case you're wondering, that's 11 darts a second that it shoots off. So it's getting the Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest firing Nerf blaster. I'm assuming this one won't be ready for Christmas, though, if your kids are asking for it.
And the name, it's called the Moab, mother of all blasters. All trying to save $1 these days and stretch our money a bit further. Someone asked just to name the small expenses that end up costing us a lot more than you think. Well, here's some of the things that people came up with, the things we might overlook. Subscriptions you don't use, including everything from streaming service to magazines. I would even add in a gym membership. If you're never going, then maybe that's one way to save a couple dollars.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it maybe once or twice a year to go through your credit card or your bank statement and see what are those reoccurring expenses that you're like, wait, I don't really use that anymore, so let's get rid of it. Another little thing that can end up costing you a lot of money in the long run is delivery, especially if you're ordering things through apps. Because if you're getting food, once you add on the delivery fee, other fees, and a tip, you end up paying like $15 more than if you had just gone and went and picked it up yourself.
How about this, that fancy coffee on your way to work? Maybe you feel like it's worth it, and yeah, you're treating yourself. But if you're paying like $5 or more for one of these coffees 5 days a week, that adds up to over $1,200 a year.
I will say this, though. If the fancy coffee is it's the one thing that brings you joy and happiness on your way to work, just budget for it then.
What is it worth to you, right? Is that the one thing you're like, no, I'm not willing to let that go?
Yeah. Another thing, though, that can be adding up, costing you a lot of money, appetizers at restaurants. A lot of times they add an extra $10 to your bill, and your main meal, if you're getting an entree as well on top of that, is usually more than enough food.
Well, especially if you end up taking it home in, a little container afterwards anyway. Right? So then you've spent all that extra money on the app.
But now that's my lunch for the next day, though. So maybe I'm planning ahead.
Right. And apps and games you never use, or maybe games your kids never use. In-app purchases also add up a lot as your credit card gets dinged after another for all these various things.
I would really just want to reiterate here, though, that if any of these things maybe do bring you joy, like getting food delivery or the fancy coffee in the morning on your way to work, if it does bring you joy, like you do value it, like you go and look at, do I value this? Then maybe just work a way out in your budget, cut back in other places.
I mean, there's ways to survive, obviously. I had a friend one time that he was working a couple of different part-time jobs at the time where he was living. And he was like, well, yeah, I got by. I ate bologna sandwiches every day and, I drank tap water. How enjoyable is that? That's just basically surviving, and we need more than that, right? With the cost of food and gas and everything else, rent, mortgages these days.
But he didn't do that forever. It sounds like it was just for a short period of time so that he could get back up on his feet, and then you get away from it.
So these are just little ways to try and, save $1 or $2 where you can. Sometimes various airports you go through, you end up getting picked. bag gets searched, maybe you get searched, and sometimes the searches can be a little intrusive. I remember a friend one time that we met in Dominican years ago, and we saw them again in Dominican. She had gone through security. We saw them afterwards, and she goes, wow, I think I'm dating that security guard now after that pat down. It was a little intrusive, she said, but I don't think it was anything like this.
No, Qatar Airways is in trouble, needless to say, right now, after they pretty much performed gynecological exams on some passengers.
Yeah, an executive told the Australian Senate the airline would never again perform gynecological exams on passengers. That's a sentence you never thought you would have to say.
Nope. So this all happened after a bizarre incident where 13 Australian women were reportedly subjected to the examinations because apparently they were looking for a mother who had given birth at the airport and then abandoned the baby at the airport. So I guess they thought the best thing to do was to actually give them, examine their lady parts and see if they had recently given birth.
So they said, quote, "We've had nothing like it previously in our history, and we're completely committed to ensuring nothing like this ever happens again." 5 women connected to the incident are now suing the airline, and I would imagine the others should join them, and all 13 should be suing them. Can you even possibly imagine? Yeah, I'm pulling you in for a secondary exam. Okay, you think body scan, pat down.
Yeah.
Okay, well, get up, put your legs up on the stirrups. We have to do a gynecological exam now. Excuse me? And I mean, you're in a country where you're not familiar with their laws. It can be scary. How much intimidation was used? Do you want to end up in a prison in Qatar because you're refusing orders? Like, what an absolutely terrifying situation for these women and their families. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I was a partner of one of these women, I would be so upset. But how upset do you get? Next thing you know, you're being taken away in handcuffs because you're freaking out at an airport.
Yeah, I guess there's just another reason to sue them, I guess, if it comes down to it.
Oh, there's going to be all sorts of reasons. This will be a massive lawsuit. A 50-pound pet tortoise has become very famous in Pennsylvania because he escaped his pen for the 3rd time in recent years.
So the tortoise's name is Tank, and he actually could have died if the temperature had dipped too low at night. He went missing about 2 weeks ago, and in that time, he made it 2 miles before someone spotted him.
He's Dr. Mike's pet that he keeps here. He has a nice little roaming area out back. This is the 3rd time he has gotten loose. This time, he actually broke a couple of the rings in the kennel, or in his cage back there, and he actually slid through.
So now they have a plan. So hospital officials say they're planning to outfit Tank with a GPS tracker so he can be found more easily if he escapes again. It's almost like they expect it.
So he lives at the animal hospital, and apparently he doesn't like it there.
I guess he's not just a tortoise, he's a Houdini.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Florida man is being celebrated because he rescued 6 ducklings from a sewer drain and reunited them with their mom.
Mommy was here freaking out, and my husband is in the grate rescuing the babies. There's one more. They're running to the...
Is that it?
Yay. We're saved. Bye, Mama. Are you happy now?
He's a retired firefighter, so he's used to rescues, right?
Yeah, nothing new for him.
And finally, a police chase was caught on camera as apartment dwellers complained about an intruder that wouldn't leave. It was a chicken. So the police department had an officer by the name of Nathan arrive on the scene after this complaint about this chicken who refused to leave her front porch and, wouldn't let her in. So one officer attempted to pick up the chicken. It eluded him, and then Nathan got involved.
Yeah, that's a chicken. And if it was a rooster, I ain't touching it. I got bad luck with it. Come on, now get on, get. Get on, get. Bruh. Come here now. Boy, don't pick me. Got it. Bring that chicken over here.
It took him a little while, but he was finally able to wrangle the chicken, and he said that his fellow officers now call him Rooster.
Well, because did you hear about this right there? He's like, if it's a rooster, I'm not going. I have a bad history with roosters.
Not done well. Have you ever tried to catch a chicken? They are not easy to catch.
No, we never had chickens, although my mom has told me some stories about growing up with some when she was younger, and no thanks.
Oh, yeah. If they would get out of the cage, it was a bit of a nightmare. We had them growing up, and it was my job to go and get the eggs in the morning. My brothers had to clean it up, which in the heat
I
of the
feel like
summer.
that's the worst job. You got off easy just collecting the eggs.
Well, even though then sometimes they didn't want you to take the eggs and they're pecking at your hands and stuff, right? So, but if they ever got out, it was pure bedlam trying to chase the things down. In China, the job market isn't great right now. So jobs are so scarce, young people are being forced out of the labor market, and there's a new trend of them working for their parents as, quote, full-time children.
Apparently, some parents over in China are now paying their kids a little more than $1,000 a month, which is about the average salary in China. In exchange, the kids spend time with their parents, drive them to various stores and appointments, and also do housework and cooking, just generally are on hand for kind of anything that they need. Sounds like they're being the live-in housekeeper chauffeur.
And it's become such a thing that the hashtags, hashtag full-time daughter and hashtag full-time son have been trending on Chinese social media platforms too. I mean, they had that policy for the longest time that you can only have, was it 1 or 2 kids?
Yeah, one child. I think they've lifted that now.
And I was actually watched a great documentary talking about that now the problem became, as the population was getting older, so much burden put on, and this is when people were working, but now this is why they're moving back in, because they're getting laid off, right, at these various jobs. So they're moving back in to take care of their parents. At least they're getting compensated for it, I guess, too, right?
I guess their parents are still working, or are they not retiring, or?
I guess not.
How's that working?
Yeah, not so well, apparently, if you're, a full-time daughter or a full-time son.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Did you say Hollywood?
Read my lips. Hollywood.
You like movies about gladiators?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Let's go to the movies.
You know, Hollywood.
Rolling Stone has put together a list of the 50 worst decisions in movie history.
The top spot went to the 1956 movie The Conqueror. So not only did it star a white actor, John Wayne, playing an Asian warlord, Genghis Khan, they also filmed it at some nuclear testing sites in Utah. So for decades after the movie, 41% of the crew ended up getting cancer and 21% died from it, including John Wayne. Now, they couldn't prove that they got cancer from working at those sites on the movie, but it's little suspect.
Another one that made the list at the 2017 Academy Awards, Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway were presenting for Best Picture and were handed the wrong envelope.
And the Academy Award for Best Picture.
You're impossible. Come on. La La Land.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to...
Guys, I'm sorry.
No, there's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
Moonlight won. This is not a joke. I'm afraid they read the wrong thing.
Yeah, so people thought Warren was stalling for effect, but he knew something was wrong when he showed it to Faye.
And he opened it up, and it said that... who was the actress that starred in La La Land there?
So the actress that she had won for Best Actress.
Yeah, it said Emma Stone, La La Land. So he was like, wait... That's not right. She had won for Best Actress earlier in the night, so they had handed them the same envelope again. So that's when he was trying to stall. But yeah, it was actually Moonlight that won and had that whole schmozzle up on stage.
Some of the other worst decisions in movie history, Burt Reynolds, I mean, he was in a lot of movies himself, but he turned down James Bond, The Godfather, Star Wars, Pretty Woman, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's an epic run of bad decisions.
Those are all amazing movies.
Would they have been the same, though, with Burt in the lead?
Exactly. How about this? Matt Damon, very successful guy, won some Oscars. He turned down Avatar, which included a 10% return on the back end. So he would have made $250 million.
I know he's joked in years past that, it wasn't one of his finer moments. Mm-hmm. The movie Roar used real untrained lions. Pretty much every member of the cast and crew got attacked at some point, including a 20-something-year-old Melanie Griffith, who was almost scalped and needed 50 stitches after one of the lions took a swipe at her.
Oh, man. One of the other worst decisions in movie history, MGM got a teenage Judy Garland hooked on drugs so that she could shoot The Wizard of Oz. They were shooting for 18 hours a day. I'm assuming this was before that they had an actors union, maybe?
Oh, gosh, yeah, long before.
So they would give her downers so she would go to sleep and then give her amphetamines to wake her up. So she ended up becoming addicted and passed away tragically early. She was only 47.
The movie The Blind Side, great football movie, heartwarming. There's another side to that film, as we've learned in recent months and years.
Yeah, so, I mean, they portrayed Michael Orr as being a simpleton who had to be taught football by his, adoptive mom, but that wasn't true. Apparently had a very negative effect on how people treated Michael. And then in the last couple of months, he's come out and said that he was never actually adopted by the family. They did something else to take conservatorship over him. And he said that they never really treated him like part of the family, and he's never gotten any of the proceeds from the movie or the best-selling book.
Yeah, he's made some allegations, especially in recent months, about that. How about this? Will Smith. I mean, he could make this list twice, right? The slap, the infamous slap with Chris Rock. Well, Will also turned down The Matrix and Django Unchained. The worst part? He passed on The Matrix to make Wild Wild West, which was not a good movie.
No. And finally, one of the worst decisions in movie history, Blockbuster turning down an offer to buy Netflix for $50 million back in 2000. The founders of Netflix actually flew to Dallas to meet with Blockbuster. Both companies were in trouble at the time, and so Netflix was, giving Blockbuster a chance to buy them out and kind of merge. And the co-founder and former CEO of Netflix talked a little bit about what happened in the meeting.
We kind of make our pitch to them. We go, we think there is great synergy here. We could run your online business. You'd run the stores. This would be a great combination. But they finally said, so what do you think we should pay for you? And I remember when he goes $50 million. I swear they were all kind of holding a laugh in because they found that so ridiculous. I remember sitting there going, oh, God, now we're going to have to kick their ass. You know what the best part is? You know what the best part is.
Yeah, that they actually did go ahead and do that. The $50 million would have turned into billions of dollars had they made that decision at the time.
Because Netflix was able to kind of switch from that model of mailing movies out to online streaming. Blockbuster waited too long. They were stuck with those physical stores, and that's what really put them under. And you can watch a whole documentary. It's available for free on YouTube. It's called Netflix versus the World. It came out a couple of years ago.
Can you imagine, though, if you were a fly in the wall in that meeting, they were like, oh, $50 million. Oh, you'll never be worth that. No, we'll be worth $500 billion. Hey, if you're looking to make something for dinner tonight, maybe noodles. It's National Noodle Day today.
Now, of course, I think noodles are very synonymous with Italian food, but it was actually probably the Chinese who were first to make noodles. It was brought back, and then the Italians kind of did their own version of it. And of course, there's hundreds of different types of noodles when it comes to Chinese and Asian cooking. But someone recently polled 1,000 Italians to find out the top things you might be doing wrong when you are cooking pasta.
Ketchup. Using ketchup on pasta. 89% of Italians say unacceptable, but 1 in 6 in the US say, you know what, go for it.
If you're in a pasta sauce, I mean, the worst things to put on it.
Have I done that when the kids were little, especially to stretch the sauce out maybe a bit? Yes. I remember doing that.
It's like pasta. It's a tomato sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Cutting pasta with a knife, 69% of Italians say no, never do that.
Putting pasta in cold water, then boiling it. 81% think it's unacceptable. You have to boil it first, then put the pasta in. Yeah, that's how I've always done that.
Some people started in cold water. How about boiling your pasta in plain water without salting it? Surprisingly, only 53% of Italians say that you need to salt your water. 36% say it's not necessary, and 11% don't care.
Do you always salt the water?
Oh, always salt the water.
Yeah, always put a little bit in
That's what
there.
I've heard from cooking shows. Now, this one I've heard mixed reviews on, putting oil in water. Some people say it's fine, some say it's not. And the Italians were split on it too. Most experts say don't do it, though, because it makes the pasta too slippery and then the sauce doesn't cling to it.
Yeah, I've stopped doing it. Used to do it and then stopped doing that. And then, I think it makes a difference with the way the pasta comes out. Breaking dry spaghetti in half so it fits in the pot. Another tie. 47% of Italians say unacceptable. 46% say, yeah, it's all right. The rest don't have an opinion.
You know what? If you have kids, I've made spaghetti for my nephews before, and I'm always like, do you want me to cut it? Because I'm so worried about one of them choking on it that I'm always like, I'm going to cut it up for you.
Well, and the other thing is, what if you only have a small pot and the other pot, you've got a big pot, but it's dirty or it's not around?
Yep.
Break it in half.
And you have kids screaming at you for noodles.
Right.
And finally, putting pasta on your plate, then the sauce on top of it. 44% of Italians say that's fine, but 48% say no. You should always mix the sauce in before you serve it.
How do you do it?
I think it depends on what I'm making. Like if you're, because I've always read, and something I've started doing is cooking the noodles to a little under al dente and then putting them in the sauce, because then the noodles kind of finish cooking and they absorb some of the sauce that way.
I've always just kind of put it on the plate, then put the sauce on top, and then a little bit of cheese.
Like if we're talking about spaghetti, yeah, you put the sauce on top.
Now I really want spaghetti.
You've been listening to Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.